Everywhere in the world, emotional labour is very much what people in service organisations are expected to perform. And if they're not upbeat, then the managers are going to feel obliged to intervene. More and more companies are emphasising service, and service with a smile. And so, and emotional labour, what's called emotional labour. So you come to work increasingly to work with other people or to interview people in ways that involve you being upbeat and leaving a good impression. And that's, in some cases, mainly what you are doing. And a lot of people around the world are engaged in that kind of work. You can think of air stewardesses or people on airplanes and so on, people in restaurants, all kinds of service industries. I was surprised that there was such a discrepancy between the way that managers and the way that the people they were helping perceived the help itself, because the managers thought they were being, they self-described themselves as being instrumental. They were just doing it for the sake of the company or the sake of their careers because they thought it was a good thing. But they saw it as altruistic in the sense that it wasn't part of their job, whereas the employees very much saw these managers as just going about their work as they should do, helping solve problems. And so there was a discrepancy there. So that was surprising. And following from that, there was a surprise that the managers expected something back. They expected the people they helped to be committed to them personally, not necessarily the company, but them personally, whereas the employees resisted that. And they didn't see any obligation to help the managers personally. There is prior research that suggests people who work in open plan offices are more stressed. You have less privacy, you're on display. And so if you have a private office to retreat to, where you can sulk in private, as it were, you're not going to have people, you're not going to have the manager saying, what's the matter, let's go for a cup of coffee or tea and sort you out. You can hide away. These people couldn't hide, and so that puts them under stress. At the same time, it does allow them to engage with each other and give each other social support. Because we're looking at managers and employee interactions, but of course there are peer-to-peer interactions as well. The managers saw themselves as going beyond the bounds of their work roles, and they seem to have a rather narrow interpretation of what their jobs were, and that those jobs did not include intervening to help subordinates or anyone else solve their emotional problems, whether they were asked or whether they intervened. So they thought they were being good guys, but that they recognized that this was going to help them and help the company, but they didn't see it as part of their work role at all. And that was a major surprise. A surprising number of the conversations we had with them revealed that they expected personal commitment from their guys to help them, not the company, but personal commitment to them. And that's where they were liable to be disappointed. So they didn't expect the employees to help them with their emotional problems, and nor did the employees see that as an option, because there is a hierarchical barrier, and these people were the bosses, and you don't help your boss with private emotional problems. So that option was not open. So the expectation from the managers was, well, they'll be repaid in some other more private way, and that's where it starts getting a little worrying. But it doesn't take too much of a stretch of the imagination to see patterns of dependency arising and people playing at amateur therapist and so on, and that could lead to problems in the long run. These patterns of behavior haven't been explored before. We know that emotional labor is increasingly what people are expected to engage in the workplace. But the specific downsides of that with respect to manager-subordinate relationships have not been explored. And so that's a topic that I and others, I think, will be looking at.
Now, you're an emotional intelligence coach. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I can see that you're a little bit worried about that. That's a common reaction. Yeah, I work with people's emotions in the workplace. So emotional intelligence is really important because emotions drive the behaviour of people in your workplace.
All right, well, I've worked with a lot of senior people, and I know that for a lot of them, this is a scary topic.
We do, especially if they're men. And they say, but we don't have to have anything to do with emotions in the workplace. And I go, well, actually you do. Because if you want your employees to be engaged, engagement is about emotions. And the research is very clear. And it says that if your employees do not get on or feel appreciated by their online managers, or they don't feel rewarded, or they don't feel valued, then they're less likely to be engaged. And when employees are not engaged or they're actually disengaged, then productivity goes down. So it actually affects your bottom line. Emotions drive behaviour, behaviour drives productivity.
Wow, okay. So how do I enhance the emotional intelligence of my workplace?
Let's say that you're the CEO. If you're the CEO, you role model emotional intelligence, and the rest of the workplace and organisation will understand that that's actually important. What I see happening is that a lot of very senior people do not role model emotional intelligence in their organisations, but they may actually ask me to train more junior managers or their business managers or their project managers and their staff. But meanwhile, the senior executives and the CEO goes around not being very emotionally intelligent. So if you role model emotional intelligence, the organisation will understand that that's the behaviour that's expected in your workplace.
Right, so if I'm supposed to role model this emotional intelligence thing, I'm just trying to think from the CEO's perspective here.
Yeah.
What am I doing when I'm role modelling this emotional intelligence?
You are acknowledging that emotions matter in the workplace. And there's lots of ways to do that. So
let me just jump in here, Rachel. Shouldn't people just do what they're meant to do and just get on with it?
Oh, you mean leave the emotions at the door?
Yeah, just, come here to work.
They do come here to work and they bring emotions. People are not robots. They bring emotions to the workplace. Do you want your people to be enthusiastic about the work? Do you want them to be determined to meet the deadline? Do you want them to be concerned if they're losing money? Because enthusiasm, concern, determined are all emotions. So emotions actually make an enormous difference in the workplace. And if you're just telling people to leave them behind, you're just going to have people who aren't engaged and who aren't even interested in their work. Creativity comes from a special type of emotion. Motivation comes from emotion. Don't you want your people to be motivated?
Absolutely, but shouldn't they just bring that with them?
Oh, I see. It doesn't matter if they come to a rat bag organisation where people are just horrible to each other, where there's just conflict, where there's no reward system, where there's no praise. You think people should just come and be put down and feel unappreciated and undervalued? No.
All right, so you're telling me, number one, it's important. I can see that there's a number of ways it's going to affect the bottom line.
So do you understand that emotions drive behaviour, though? Do you get that connection? Because that connection about it's emotions, not just knowledge, that influence your staff and your employees and your stakeholders and your shareholders and your executives. Their emotions actually influence what they do. Do you get that?
I'm hearing that, absolutely. It's coming through.
But do you understand what that means? Like, could you give me an example where emotions might have influenced your behaviour at work? Let's say you're a CEO, imagine.
Well, to me, yeah, if the CEO comes in and they're feeling bad, then other people are going to pick up that feeling from them.
Especially,
surely.
Yes, especially if the CEO doesn't realise that they're feeling bad or doesn't care that they're feeling bad, and then they become punitive towards really good, motivated staff. So I remember one CEO really undermining his executive team because he was in such a bad mood, and so he started retaliating and getting mean and negative to the executive, and he actually ended up losing 2 of his team. Emotions matter.
So how does that person learn these skills? Because this is not something that they've learnt in their past often.
No, you know, most of us don't learn about emotions at school. You probably, how many hours, months, years did you did you spend learning to read?
I think a long time. I was just thinking that the emotional stuff I learnt outside in the playground, not in the classroom.
Yeah. So you've spent years learning to read, and yet probably spent 10 hours learning emotional literacy. You probably don't even have a vocabulary of emotional words. You probably have been told by your HR department to leave them out of all your decision making. Well, I'm saying if you're managing people, you need to understand emotional literacy. You need to be able to be aware of your own emotions and those of your employees and those of your stakeholders, and learn to manage them really well for better buy-in and increased productivity and even greater influence, Steve. Think how good that would be.
Absolutely. To me, influencing people is what leading is all about.
Yeah, and emotions drive behaviours, so why wouldn't you want to pay more attention to the emotions, especially on those occasions where you've given information to people and they've not acted on it? Just repeating the information doesn't necessarily mean that they'll act on it. I'm wondering if you've ever gone and driven a car and seen 60 kilometres an hour but gone at 70.
I might have gone 62 and a half.
Well, there's the information. It says 60, but if you're anxious about being late to work, you probably will be more likely to go at 70. Why? Because the anxiety overrides the knowledge. Emotions drive behaviour, not just knowledge, but knowledge plus emotions. So if you're already competent on the knowledge, just add emotions in as well. Geez, you'll be even better as a CEO.
Thank you. I've run out of questions here, but...
that's fine, because all that matters is that you understand that emotions drive behaviour. And if you want more information, Steve, you can just go to my website, rachelgreen.com.
Well, to me, that's the fundamental thing, because if I know that emotions drive behaviour, then if I want people to do things, I've got to know about emotions.
You do. And also, you can, of course, get me to come into your organisation. I really enjoy coaching senior teams on emotional intelligence, especially the people who don't think that they matter. My job is to show you how they do matter, and then show you how to read them, to understand them, to be aware of them, and to get you to become more engaged with your stakeholders, your shareholders, your minister, other senior people, your employees, anybody. So I'm very happy to come into your organisation if you'd like me to.
Thanks, Rachel. To me, what you're showing me is how something that we've considered to be soft has really hard results.
Oh, absolutely. And the research is very convincing now that even if you've got a sales team, that they will earn more money and bring in more money to your organisation if they have higher levels of emotional intelligence. And also, if your staff have higher levels of emotional intelligence, you'll have less absenteeism in your workplace. It affects the bottom line. You better have me in, Steve.
Absolutely. So if I want to make contact with you?
Yeah, email me is the easiest, rachel@rachelgreen.com, or visit our website, rachelgreen.com. There's masses of information on emotions there, so you could start just by reading all the information and then getting me to come in and I'll talk to you about it all.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much, Rachel.
Yeah, I look forward to working with you, Steve. Thanks.
Today we will be discussing emotions in the workplace. This presentation is brought to you by Gianna Benny, Tammy Betro, Colin Boring, Holly Boring, and Kristen Brimfield. This information is from our course 622, Organizational Behavior at Walsh University. Let's first begin with emotions. Let's begin with discussing the different kinds of emotions that may be experienced in the workplace. According to J.A. Clark in his writing, Intersections Between Development and Evolution in the Classification of Emotions, he classifies two major categories of emotions. First are basic emotions, such as fear, joy, and anger. These are seen to be evolutionary old sets of responses involving stereotypical neural and psychological and behavioral profiles that are evolved in response to recurrent evolutionary challenges, capable of being activated by unconditioned stimuli and leading to unconditioned involuntary responses that cannot be easily modified by higher cognition. The second is higher cognitive emotions, such as pride, shame, and guilt. These are held to necessarily involve sophisticated cognitive inputs by their very nature, such as means-end, causal, counterfactual reasoning, long-term planning, social cognition, etc., and to lack simple non-cognitive elicitors. These emotions do not involve involuntary, stereotypical, psychological, expressive, or behavioral responses, but rather involve responses that are learned or prescribed by the social environment. Many, if not all, emotions have both basic and higher cognitive forms that share all of the paradigmatic features of emotions according to Clark. While higher cognitive and basic forms do indeed differ in important ways, they can nevertheless be placed in a common evolutionary and developmental framework.
In the past, emotions in the workplace have not been a topic considered in the study of organizational behavior, but merely a side effect. In his 1956 book, The Organization Man, William H. White categorizes successful business people as logical, reasoned, rational decision makers devoid of emotions. At that time, emotions were viewed as unwanted stimuli that were to be controlled in order to keep employees on the path to objectivity. Since then, emotions in the organizational behavior is no longer seen as a side effect. In our opening video, Rachel Green stated that emotions drive behavior, behavior drives productivity, and productivity affects the bottom line. An article in the Annuals of the University of Oredia Economic Science Series disagrees with White's statement by stating that at the heart of any behavior in the workplace there is always one or more emotions, which the article describes as the foundation of all behavior and actions.
Teamwork could be considered the most impactful display of emotion in the workplace. For teams to be truly effective, their members must have an emotional attachment to the team that creates a sense of dedication and commitment to team activities. That dedication and commitment, in turn, facilitates the development of enhanced cognitive capabilities as members effectively group their knowledge and make every effort to achieve high performance. Social identity theory suggests this cognitive change and emotional investment, in contrast to membership interaction, are the critical parts of the unification process that discourages members from thinking of themselves as individuals pursuing their own personal motives and agendas. One study examined the relationship between demographic diversity in the workgroups and emotional regulation. Results indicated that working in a group with greater age diversity is positively related to an employee's emotional regulation. This can primarily be attributed to younger employees in the work setting with older coworkers. As stated previously, emotions in the workplace are inevitable. However, emotions can be regulated if leaders take the proper care in assigning groups. This task may be easier if the correct groups are truly assigned.
Tone and moods of different individuals in the group can affect the moods of the other members, and this behavior starts at the top of the company or organization. In Rachel Green's interview, at the beginning of this presentation, she discusses how many CEOs and executive staff are excited to have their employees trained on emotional intelligence, but as leaders, consider themselves exempt from the need to be educated on the subject. Leaders who empower their staff and demonstrate persistence, tenacity, and determination foster the same positive qualities in their employees, energizing the team and leading it to success. Employees who feel a sense of empowerment and feel as if they are working towards something rather than just passively being at work are more likely to make a positive contribution to the organization. These employees are more passionate about their work and in turn are more productive.
The feeling of being overworked is another common cause of negative emotions in the workplace. Workaholics show traits of workplace aggression, including high emotional reactivity and low self-regulative capacity. These negative factors have been shown to impact the employee's mental capacity, which then results in low productivity and increased aggression. A 1932 study of the emotions of employees concluded that there is a relationship between daily emotions and work performance. Other findings of the study indicate that the effects of negative emotional states are more pronounced than those of positive emotional states, and that an employee's ability to adjust to the work environment is affected by both work-related factors as well as external factors such as family life. In other words, employees do not effectively compartmentalize their emotions based on their social, organizational, or rational context. Problems at work can carry over to the home life and vice versa.
In a study of organizational experiences that evoke positive emotions, 835 U.S. employees were questioned about their best workplace experiences. The outcome of the study showed that many of the employees' work experience that evoked positive emotions were largely social, and they were typified in the 5 main courses: individualism, uniqueness; power, empowerment; success, accomplishment; belonging, connection; and safety, security. Many of the discourses can be strongly tied to Maslow's theory of the hierarchy of needs.
In summary, emotions in the workplace are unavoidable and can actually provide leaders and managers important tools to manage their teams. Instead of ignoring emotions in the workplace, managers and leaders should encourage employees to express their emotions in a healthy and beneficial manner. By doing this, leaders enable employees the opportunity for self-understanding, stimulating feedback, and improvement of cognitive and emotional skills. Emotional expression leads to developing and maintaining optimal relationships within the organizational environment, with a positive impact on enthusiasm, loyalty, attachment, and involvement. A great way to harness the power of emotional expression, employers should consider devising a set of rules for sufficient emotional conduct. These rules or guidelines could be set forth in any way the employer sees fit. However, they should be designed and carried out in a way that helps employees guide their conduct in the workplace while enabling or inhibiting certain emotional expressions. Companies may see different ways in doing this, such as written or non-written, just verbal rules set forth, so that employees will be able to truly harness their ability to use their emotional conduct in ways that are fit for the organization.